Hi, this is Jessica from melifecoach.com, and today we are going to talk about Enneagram's body types. We have already talked about the 3 Enneagram types that are called head types. These are people that lead with their cerebral faculties. Then we talked about people who are heart types. These are people who lead with their emotional heart faculties. And now today we're going to talk about the 3 body-centered types that lead from their instinct or their gut. This one is, I guess it's probably the least talked about in our culture, I think. Everybody sort of knows this idea of some people that are super cerebral, and everybody knows the concept of somebody who's very emotional or leading with each of those senses. But the body types, I don't know that we talk about it as often, and really all 3 of them are just as important, and all 3 of them give a person different but extremely useful and even necessary information about living in the world. So the Enneagram is a personality typology. Everybody is born into one of the types. There are 9 types on it, numbered 1 through 9. No type is better or worse than the others, but we all experience gifts and maybe superpowers in our core type, as well as blind spots and deficiencies in our core type. Today we're going to talk about the body types. That's types numbers 8, 9, and 1. And one interesting thing about body types is no matter what your core type is, you have a direct link to one or more of these body types. So the reason that's relevant is because another thing I've been trying to really emphasize is Enneagram is a dynamic system, meaning even though you have a core number that you primarily lead from, you very often, even without knowledge of the Enneagram, move from one number to another. And most of the time when we don't understand personality or behavior dynamics, we just do that by default. And Enneagram work can teach us how to do that with intention. So a good analogy I've heard before is the Enneagram is like electricity. You can be using it and not understand how it works. But of course, if you're using electricity in a careless way, you could get shocked and you could die. Also, Enneagram, you can't die, I don't think. Let's hope so. But anyway, the point is these patterns are running behind the scenes in your psyche and in your behavior patterns, whether or not you even know that they are. And furthermore, this is kind of funny. Some people think that nobody's going to know their Enneagram type, or nobody can tell their Enneagram type. And a little bit of spoiler alert here: people who know the Enneagram very well, if they know you very well, they know where you're coming from. They know which number you are, because the behavior manifestations in all 9 points of the Enneagram are very distinct. And the interesting thing about that is we're all looking at the world from a different viewpoint. We all have a valid viewpoint, and our personalities are formed by what we focus on. So essentially what we're saying is Enneagram has 9 different types of ways to be human, and each of those 9 ways are focusing on a certain facet in life. So it's not that anybody's wrong, it's just that when you focus on one thing, the world appears to you as that one thing. I mean, it's where your attention is going habitually, and this happens automatically from childhood. So it's not like you chose your number, or it's not like you even chose what you're paying attention to. But this is why we're learning about Enneagram, because you can learn, oh, my type tends to pay attention to this, but it neglects all this other stuff that other people are paying attention to, and that I'm in the dark about because I never pay attention to that thing, because I'm so fixated on my one thing that I pay attention to. Okay, so another thing we've already gone over is that the head types, their experience of the world is primarily one that is concerned with safety and security. So subconsciously, they are looking to be safe and secure above all else. And therefore, they are fixated on planning and strategizing and creating cerebral ways to gain knowledge and wisdom so that they can live safely in the world and mitigate their fear, something like that. When we get to the heart types, what's happening is heart types believe that they might not be as lovable as they could be, or if people knew them authentically, people might not love them. So they end up subconsciously creating images, like a maybe masking or trying to present themselves in certain ways that they feel will make them more lovable. And that brings them a feeling of sadness, because if you don't feel loved, you may feel a lot of sadness or shame. And so they report feeling a lot of sadness and shame on a regular basis. Now let's get into the body types, 8s, 9s, and 1s. Body types are experiencing the world through sensations. It's sort of like they're, and this is not woo-woo, this isn't like magic. I'm not a psychic. It's nothing like that. This is actually just ways that we sense the world. So maybe an easier way to think about it is animal instincts. And, you know, a deer will respond a certain way. If a deer in headlights, for instance, will just freeze. But a deer isn't thinking, and a deer isn't emoting. A deer is just sensing when to freeze, when to run, when to eat, when to sleep, when to take shelter, that sort of thing. So the body types are really, in some ways, it's like the most primal part of humanity. They are living in a world that is informed by what they sense. And for whatever reason, body types are not fearful that the world's not gonna, that they're not safe, like head types. And they're not so worried about not being lovable or creating an image that will make them lovable, like the heart types. Instead, they have a little bit of a sense that the world isn't as it should be. It's there's a judgment involved there. So they are looking for maybe judicial equality, something like that. They're looking for fairness. They're looking for justice to be served in the world. And when they look around, it doesn't feel like justice is being served. And it also feels like they kind of have a corner on justice. It feels like they know what should be happening in this world. And of course, I'm not saying they're wrong. They could be very right. They could be noticing things that they're correct. These things are not fair. This isn't right. People aren't being treated fairly. This isn't good. But what happens for them is, because the world isn't as it should be, and because they're sensing the world through bodily tensions, this makes them frustrated or annoyed or angry. They are angry because the world isn't as it should be. And all of us get mad when the world isn't as it should be. You don't have to be a body type to experience anger. Anger as an emotion, Enneagram aside, when we experience anger, it generally means something like somebody is crossing our boundaries or somebody's taking advantage of us. Anger is like, hey, give me my space. You're treating me poorly. You're overstepping your authority onto me. So there's an autonomy thing going on here with body types. It's like they are aware of where their space is, and they're very aware of when people are trying to come into their space. They can sense that, and it's very uncomfortable. They're feeling it in their bodies. And also, type 8, for instance, their energy is pushing out, trying to affect the world around them. So when you think of body types, one way to think of it is sort of think of a little bubble that's surrounding them, and that's like their space. And when that space is jeopardized or intruded upon or violated, or people aren't respecting it, respect is a big word for the body types, that makes them angry. Now, just like all the other types, you might know that they're angry, but you might not, and they might not even know they're angry, depending on the type. Some of them are more comfortable expressing their anger, but some of them, their anger is subconscious, and they have to do a little digging to find it. So, okay, let's talk about these 3 different types. So when we get to the body types, starting with type 8, these are very bold people. 8s are the strong, effective people in the Enneagram. 8s are tough, they're realistic, they are the type of people who tell it like it is. They are the most in touch with their bodily vitality. So they have really big energy. They can outpace any of us because they just work really hard and they never stop. They have, but again, it's a vitality, right? It's a bodily energy that is big. 8s want the volume turned way up all the time. So because of that, at times they can feel loud, they can feel powerful. They're the type of person that when they walk into the room, everybody can feel the vibe shift. And I don't mean it's bad. I just mean their power. You just, woof, like you could feel the power coming off of them. For them, the world is experienced as a place, again, where justice, where you have to be careful who has power because they are sensitive to people in power misusing their power and taking advantage of themselves, but also, sometimes more importantly, the people that they're trying to protect. 8s are sometimes called protectors. They're sometimes called challengers. They are not afraid of conflict. This is the type of person, more so than any other type, that will willfully and happily, frankly, engage in conflict. And it's not because, a lot of the other types give negative connotations to conflict. I'm not doing that here. We're not making a value judgment on conflict. My point is that 8s would rather wrestle it out right now, find the truth, right? Find the justice in this situation, and let's call it what it is, and let's move forward. They're go-getters. Just do it. Get it done. Done is a word in 8. 8s finish what they start. They're very strong, big personalities. Now, obviously, just like anybody, they have times where they're more mellowed out. But when they are energized, which is a lot of the time, they are full throttle people. They work hard, they play hard, they drink hard, they love hard, they fight hard, and everything is turned way up. One of the things that lives in 8 space is sort of like living life with too much force. The thing is, they don't really moderate themselves. They follow their instincts and they're very impulsive. So an 8, if he feels the need to do something, he's going to do it right then. They're not real into, they're not very gentle, generally speaking. Not that they can't shift into other types and be gentle, but 8 space is not particularly gentle. They're powerful. They have a sort of a code of honor that they are trying to follow. They are very protective of their own. 8s are sometimes called challengers because multiple things. They will challenge someone else if they believe that somebody is misusing power. They'll be the first to be there and challenge it, but also they will challenge themselves. They're very big on developing potential, both their own potential, but also they're good at seeing potential in other people. That's one of their gifts, and really pushing you to pull out your best potential. 8s are the kind of tough love type of people, but they do love big. They are very magnanimous. When they're at their best, they're super generous. I mean, like, again, it's like go big or go home. That's in 8 space. The vice at 8, or the sin that trips them up regularly, is lust. And we don't mean lust in a sexual sense here, though we could, but that's not exactly what we're saying. The lust is everything's got to be at full throttle, full volume all the time. The moderation is what's in the blind spot. They don't see that sometimes they're coming at life with too much force. Even when you see them doing things, like they might slam cabinet doors really hard or slam doors really hard, and they're not mad. If they are mad, they will tell you. This is the type that is the most in touch with their anger out of all 9 Enneagram types. And when they're mad, it's explosive. And you're going to know, and everybody around them is going to know. But once they're finished expressing their anger, they're back to normal. And then they're like, hey, anybody want to go get some ice cream? It's like it never happened. And some other people are like, feel like a bomb just went off. Like, oh my gosh, they just said that and did that and acted that way. And now they want to go get ice cream. also, the reason behind that is because anger for any human, once anger is fully expressed, generally, like all emotions, if it says what it needs to say, it'll pass like a cloud in the sky. So eights are really amped up people. They're strong. They're protecting the underdogs. They're fine being a leader. Like they'll do it. They'll go first. They're brave. They're not afraid to take one for the team. They are very action oriented. They're not sitting back on their heels ever. My dad happens to be this type, and my dad is going to be 88 years old next month, and he's building a house right now by himself out in the woods. He's built many houses throughout his life, but most 88-year-olds aren't out there in Florida building a house out in the sun, but he's building a house and after this one, he has another one he wants to build. So this is like big energy, like never stops, right? Just really big energy. The virtue at 8 is something like moderation, or it's learning the appropriate amount of energy to apply at every situation. So the vice of lust amps them up big time. But when they can be receptive to things instead of just always pushing out their energy, when they can listen to others, listen to other viewpoints, understand that just because somebody has a different viewpoint doesn't mean that person is being unfair or unjust or even trying to take advantage of. Eights tend to move very quickly to anger and revenge, and many times it ends up maybe something like they can jump to conclusions really quickly because they're not taking the time to slow down and really process and ask for input from others. Eights, again, think of that bubble I talked about. They really don't want anything in their bubble. They want full autonomy. They do not want to be controlled. And the way that can manifest in the average and unhealthy levels is to not let anything in. But obviously, just like anybody else, they have blind spots. So to not take any other information in is not really the best idea, because then you've got some massive blind spots of what you could be missing in your big energy and your big force. Okay, so that's type 8. Type 9. These are the sweethearts of the Enneagram. Think Winnie the Pooh. Think maybe a little soft and squishy. These are huggers. These are lovable people. These are peacemakers, moderators, bridge builders. Nines love harmony. They love peace. They love comfort. Nines are very sensitive to any type of discomfort. A lot of them will report being aggravated with like a tag on their clothing, or my mom is a 9. She has to wear her socks inside out because those stitches on the socks, she doesn't like those touching her feet. They have like again, these are body types, right? They have a very body sensitivity. I always kid, and this is an exaggeration, but sometimes my mom, again, who's a 9, I mean, she'll be like, oh, I just felt a little like after lunch, she might say, oh, I just felt a sunflower seed down and right here in my stomach. Like they're like really paying attention and like really intently to their body and what they're feeling. Really sensitive to chairs but it doesn't just have to be physical comfort. I'm right now speaking of physical comfort, but 9s are also very sensitive to discomfort, like in the vibes. I saw a magnet recently that said something like, please be aware of the energy that you bring into my space. That's super 9, right? Think of the bubble. They do not want any disruption in their force field. And they don't want a tag on their shirt, but they also don't want anybody arguing. I should actually sometimes I switch into voices that might be more appropriate for each type. So when you think of 9, think of a hammock in the woods or on the beach, and sipping a cocktail and taking it easy and being with friends. Nines are interested in connecting with people. Don't get this confused with emotions, because they're not emotional per se. They are connecting, but a little bit in a standoffish way, truth be told. But they do want everybody together. A sort of a concept at nine space is this idea of wholeness, WHOLE. We're all part of the whole. And nine wants to stay connected to that whole, but they also want everybody else included. Nines don't want anybody left out. That makes them uncomfortable. Possibly because when people are left out, the people can also be uncomfortable, right? And nines don't want anybody to be uncomfortable. Not so much because they care about how the other people feel, although they do, but really more than that, they don't want to have to deal with it. Nines don't want to have to deal with things. They want things easy peasy, nice and breezy. So they tend to be very allowing, very harmonious. If you're familiar with personality traits, nines are pretty high in agreeableness. They will say yes. They're the kind of person you say, oh, where do you want to go for dinner tonight? And they'll say, oh, wherever you want to go. They're very allowable until they're not. Now, once you've pushed them too far, then their anger is going to come out. Remember, these are angry types. And nines, they'll give you an inch, they'll give you another inch, they'll give you another inch, they'll give you another inch. But if you push them too hard, they will rightfully get very angry. Like any of us. I mean, anybody would get angry if you push them too hard. It's just they're so allowing that sometimes they can let that's kind of like something they struggle with. Their vice is sloth. Sloth here is defined as going asleep to themselves and to what they really need. So it can be self-care, or it can be setting healthy boundaries, or it can be sometimes for the sake of maintaining connections or relationships, nines will turn themselves way down. Right, now compare that with type 8 that we just talked about. Type 8 turns themselves way up. Type 9s just soften themselves again and again and again and again and again. And that's the sloth. It's going asleep to oneself almost until nothingness. And the thing is, if we go back to this idea that everybody is made in the image of God, everybody is a divine reflection. Every person, no matter who they are, is a spark from, I would say, from the Christ, but a spark from ultimate reality, a spark, again, the divine is a good word. So it is not in service to that spark for a nine to turn himself down. Nines have voices too. Nines are actually, they're very observant when they want to be. They are receptive to things, I would say. They don't care so much to state their case, but they will listen, and they can see everybody's point of view type of thing. They're very good at thinking other people have important things to say and other people have important viewpoints. And that's true. But what the nine sometimes forgets is he also has a good and necessary viewpoint that should be shared. And when the nine doesn't use his voice and doesn't share his viewpoint, the world is worse off for it. They minimize themselves to the level of almost dissolving to nothingness. And when a nine wakes up a little bit and starts becoming aware of that, they can be very upset, of course, because they've been asleep. There is an artist who makes songs for all of the Enneagram types. Sleeping at Last is the artist. And in the 9 song, there's a line that says something like, I've been less than half myself for more than half my life. That's really sad. I've mentioned it before. All of the types, it's actually very sad, the reasons that we land in our types to start with. It's because of a distortion that we have misunderstood. So part of the distortion for these body types for 8s, 9s, and 1s is that justice is not being served. Karma is not being dished out. Life is not fair, and they somehow feel that they're the ones that are going to have to bring justice because justice isn't being served. And the good news is that they can cast their cares because God is the one who delivers justice. And it might not be the way we want, and it might not be in this lifetime, and it might not be, it just, it's frustrating. We all get frustrated about that, of course. But for the body types, it can just seem so unfair. And they're right. It is unfair, or it seems unfair. And that's why we just have to trust that one day the wrongs will be made right, which is a hope that we can have in faith. So 9s are kind. They love taking naps. Actually, if they get overwhelmed, naps can also be kind of an escape because, again, they're very sensitive to the pain of the world or the discomfort of the world. They're very supportive. They are calm, man, so calm. A 9 just feels good to be around. You just feel like you can take a breather with them and have a cup of tea, and they're just positive. They're optimistic types, easygoing, no worries, very humble. When they're in their sloth, they can have their head in the sand, and when they go to sleep to their problems, like all of us, the problems do nothing but fester and get bigger. So that's like the story of a 9's life, is they're going to sleep, looking the other way, head in the sand, and the problems aren't going away, and in fact the dragons are getting bigger. So the vice at point 9 is sloth, and the virtue to counteract it is right action, taking the right action in this moment, learning to prioritize what needs to be done, not laying down in the hammock, not taking another nap, not checking out, not distracting by looking at a little sweet bird out in her nest. No, 9s, the virtue for them is to take action and move forward, knowing that they are a child of God and they have a voice and they have a right to their space. Finally, we get to type 1, and type 1s are, if you know personality traits, type 1s are by definition high in trait conscientiousness. These are industrious people. They are orderly people. Again, very fair, right? All of the body types are concerned about justice and fairness. 1s are an archetype, think Mary Poppins-ish. Think old school Dana Carvey church lady on Saturday Night Live. But also a teacher, again, if you go back to Mary Poppins, constructive and helpful and proper and kind, methodical, principled, a role model. 1s can be a little bit formal maybe in their etiquette or in their presentation. They it's not so much that I wouldn't say that they are real concerned about what others think of them as much as they are trying to be good and right and proper and correct. They are called the perfectionists of the Enneagram. Some of them that word resonates and some it doesn't, but what it is it feels to a 1 like the world should is a big word at 1. The world should be a certain way, and it's not. And that annoys them. And 1s also subconsciously or consciously don't believe anger is appropriate. 1s are above all else trying to be appropriate. And really, the more worked up they get, the more tight-lipped they can get. You can see a 1, again, think body tensions. Their bodily energy is a tenseness, uptight, anal retentive, right? Like very stiff, especially when they're agitated, they are more stiff. Very convinced, black and white thinking is a lot at 1, right? There's one right way to do it and everything else is the wrong way, and they're working really hard to do things the right way. They are like the kings and queens of self-discipline in the Enneagram. 1s are very self-controlled. Part of that is because they have an interior voice harping on them all the time, correcting them, punishing them, telling them they're being bad. Moral, there's a conscious, is that the word? Like they have to, no, conscience, that's what they are trying to be obedient to their super ego or to their conscience. They want to be good little boys and girls. They somehow got the message from childhood that if you're bad, you're going to be worthless or thrown away, disrespected, something like that. So they are working very hard to be good and correct and proper. Now, before learning Enneagram, what can be very frustrating in one space is they are working round the clock to be good and proper and right and fair, and they share with other people. They don't hog everything for themselves, and they're polite, and they don't overstay their welcome, and they'll do their part in cleaning up, and they'll do their part of community work and serving, volunteer work, and they literally don't stop working. And then they're angry because it seems to them like other people are not pulling their own weight the way the one is. So the one is like, kind of has a feeling of like, why am I the only one doing all the work? Oh, here I am again doing all the work. Nobody in the family cleans this house except for me. I'm the only one. And in a sense, they're not wrong, meaning, remember, our personalities are formed by what we pay attention to. Ones are very task oriented, and they're trying to pay attention to doing what needs done and doing it properly and correctly and not cutting corners. And so they'll work until midnight if necessary to get this done appropriately and correctly. And that they're so hyper focused on that, and ethics and morals and should, right? Shoulding on themselves all the time. We should never should on ourselves. What they're missing is, so they're accurate when they say, nobody else is doing this. How come I'm the one doing all the work? They're right. The rest of us aren't putting that much of an effort forth. And part of it's because the rest of us don't so much care about perfection. For a lot of us, good enough is good enough. And so also a lot of us will listen to our body, and when our body wants to have fun, we'll have fun. Or when our body wants to sleep, we'll sleep. When our body wants a cookie, we'll eat a cookie. Ones tend to, well, I can't have cookies, that's extra calories, and I can't go to sleep because my work's not done, and I can't have fun because I have this list of things to do. And the thing is, their list never gets done. Also, because they take everybody else's work onto themselves. Like, nobody's asking them to do this, is what I'm saying. I used to hear a woman who I thought a lot of what she spoke about was, she was a public speaker, was in one space, and she would always say, who makes your schedule? My one friends, who makes your schedule? You do. You do. If your schedule is too full, take some things off of it. Everything is not on your shoulders, my friend. The world is not revolving around you getting your tasks done. The sun comes up and the sun comes down, and your work will be there tomorrow. So the vice at one is anger. Sometimes the word resentment is used, resentment because of what I just said, because it feels like nobody else is doing the work and I'm doing all of the work and none of you are doing it. Okay, fine, fair. And that can lead to anger. Ones, however, usually cannot see their anger very easily. They might see that they're annoyed or frustrated, but to say that they're experiencing rage or anger is a little out of bounds for them, right? It feels immoral, it feels improper, it feels inappropriate. So it takes some work for them to look at their shadow side. But the virtue at one is serenity. I connect to one space, my number does, and one of the things that helps me is the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change what I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking as Jesus did this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting you will make things right as I surrender to your will. Woo, that's easier said than done, isn't it? But it's a nice reminder that we can have serenity. That with the body types, with type 8, thinking that everything is theirs to do, and the world, justice won't be served if they don't bring justice, and somebody's got to tell them, and punishment, and there's got to be punishment, there's got to be consequences. Listen, my friend 8, we so need your big energy, and we love your the way you call out the best in others, and the way you challenge what's wrong, and the way you have a heart for protecting others. But you can rest knowing God is the ultimate protector. You can relax. And our sweet 9 friends, the message for you is you are important, and we need your voice, and we need your energy, and we need you to wake up. Wakey, wakey. Come join the party. You are just as valuable as everyone else. You are not dispensable. You are never going to be forgotten. You are part of the whole. You are included, and we need you to participate with the gifts you've been given. And for our 1 friends, it's, girl, you can relax. You can relax. Go have a good time. Let it go. God is the ultimate bringer of justice, body friends. And even for all of us, if you remember from previous calls, you don't have to be a type 8, 9, or 1 fundamentally to know the experiences that I just mentioned. We all tap into one of the body types, at least, if not multiple of them. So with all that, this 3rd video concludes a very brief overview. We'll have deep dives into each of the types, but this concludes my introduction into the 9 Enneagram types. But if you notice the pattern here, it's if we would keep our spiritual connection and trust God, we wouldn't have to jump through a bunch of hoops to try to feel safe in this world, to try to feel loved in this world, to try to bring justice in this world. And if we would trust God, we could give our fear to God. We could give our sadness and shame to God. We could give our anger to God. And that would free us up to live more fully into the gifts and strengths that we've been given. And we can bring heaven on earth with our living to the fullest and in union with the divine. Okay, friends, thanks for watching. I am a life coach, by the way. If you're interested in any sessions, individual sessions where we deep dive into you can contact me through my website. That's melifecoach.com. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.